It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And it is an emergency episode of Judd's Hockey Show that is made necessary by a trade that just came down, and that is that the Wild, for the second time in the last 3 years, I believe, have acquired Gustav Nyquist as the trade deadline approaches. Now, a couple of years ago, it was for a fifth-round pick from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Nyquist was hurt at the time, played at the end of the regular season, and then played in the playoffs, was effective, and the Wild would have liked to have kept him, but there was one problem, AJ Eriksson, and that was they had no room at the end when it came to salary cap space. So they acquire him again, this time from the team he signed with as a free agent. He, again, is going to be a free agent after the season. He is 35. He's been acquired from a Nashville team that is just awful in exchange for a second-round selection in 2026. Also, the Wild gets the Predators to retain 50% of Nyquist's contract. And again, he will be a free agent after the season. So, just to give this some context, in the past 3 games, since coming back from the Four Nations break, the Wild has lost 3 of 4. And in the past 3 games, losses to Detroit, Utah, and Colorado, back-to-back, just brutal performances. They have been outscored 14-5. They're without Kirill Kaprizov. They're without Judd Eriksson Ek. They look like they can't score a goal to save their lives. So your reaction, because we've talked about this, your reaction, second-round pick 2026 for Gustav Nyquist age, and do you think that this is just the start as Bill Guerin tries to salvage a season that definitely has some potential to go off the rails here with the losses?
Well, I'm frankly kind of in the boat of some of the commenters here. And Drew chimes in and says, second rounder seems a bit much. I agree. But I feel like that is solely based on the fact that they were able to get that second. It goes from a third to a second, I think, so they can get that 50% retained, which to me says the Wild are not done. It seems like something in the coming week is maybe materializing, and maybe now this retained salary allows them to go out and do something else. But I'm curious because I really felt like, and maybe you felt the same way, there wasn't a whole lot they could do that would leave me feeling at ease, satisfied. Like this, can the Wild live without a second rounder next year with the kind of prospects and they have coming up? Yeah, like they're kind of entering this realm now where you have the pieces, you got to develop them and make sure that they get ice time. They are taking steps to better their game. And like a draft pick may not be as beneficial as it was 2 years ago. So I can live without that second rounder. But the problem here is if you're going to have that salary retained and you're going to then trade more potentially in the coming week, what else are you going to give up? What other picks potentially, and God forbid prospects, are going to be on their way out the door? That is now what worries me. Is Gustav Nyquist a game-changing, lineup-altering player? No. He is, I mean, frankly, I think he's a better version of probably what Marcus Johansson is. Granted, he's been playing some pretty good hockey here the past couple of days. Wish we saw that more often, more consistently. But Gustav Nyquist, this is kind of like that middle depth, like goal-scoring guy that we've talked about. He's familiar with the team. He's familiar with the state. It's fine. Like I'm not going to like lose sleep over this, but I wouldn't say I gave a Tiger Woods 18th green fist pump when I saw like, yes, they got Gustav Nyquist. Let's go.
What's the intention here? That's my question. What's the intention here? Like if you tell me again, Kirill Kaprizov's coming back in a week or something like that. Mm-hmm. Judd Eriksson Ek's going to be back in 2 weeks. But here's my biggest question, because, on the surface, you can get a second round pick back. I understand that. But what are we doing here? And I saw that there was just a tweet out from a friend of the show, Michael Russo of The Athletic, reporting that Ogren has now been sent down to create room. Nyquist will undoubtedly become a top 6 guy. My guess is that, so the lines last night, John Hines, coming off that brutal 6-1 loss against Utah on Thursday, juggled the lines for what turned into a pretty brutal 5-2 loss to the Avs. Marco Rossi, Boldy, Hinostroza, who scored, I believe, on a power play. The second line was Gaudreau, who's looked the last 2 games like he's Gretzky. I don't know what's happened to him. Marcus Johansson, who's trying hard now, but drives me more crazy when he tries hard because it exposes how much he doesn't try, and Zuccarello. So my guess is Hinostroza gets bumped down here, and Gustav might be the right wing with Rossi, or Goudreau. Zuccarello is the right wing elsewhere. But yeah, I want to know before Friday when the deadline hits, I believe it's 2 p.m. Central, what is the goal here? Because is the goal just to try and win some games again? Like there is, without knowing what's happening with Kaprizov or Ek, like you're 8 points clear of being out of the playoffs. You're falling apart right now. But then again, last night, Brodin gets hurt and tried to play. And I texted you. I said, something's not right. And I'll go back to the Utah game. He looked off in that game. He got hit by the shot, the inside of the knee last night, but I thought that he looked off a night earlier. I don't think he's anything close to healthy based on the fact that he has missed time and then went and played in the Four Nations tournament. Bogosian was out last night. Hines says he has no idea what's wrong. I mean, I'm guessing he's not going to play. So big picture, 10,000 foot view, forget this trade for just a second. What are we doing here? I have no idea what your status of guys is, but I will say this, here's the problem too. So Nyquist was held out of the game against for the Predators today against the Islanders. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Nelson, the last time I checked in, had 2 goals. Are we about to see a Brock Nelson trade too? It feels like you're throwing a lot of things at a much bigger problem, and to quote you, God forbid by Friday you're like, okay, we'll just trade some prospects, unless it's bottom tier guys. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, Lou Lamoriello, the GM and president of the Islanders, if you're going to get Brock Nelson, is going to make you pay for him. So I'm a little bit concerned because a second round pick is not nothing. I'm a little bit concerned that this is just a blind panic of we started off so well, we can't give up now. And it's like, if you don't have Kaprizov and Ek, you probably should just accept your fate and not try to start to make moves so that, take your pick, so that Freddie Goudreau is happy. Oh yeah, we're going to compete. Dude, you're without one of the best players in the entire league. I am very concerned this is the start of trying to get into the playoffs, and that is going to end with a first round exit.
I feel like you aren't making these types of moves if you don't think Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and others are back and healthy by the time the playoffs roll around. That would seem very irresponsible to be making really any trades that is for a guy, whether it's a bottom 6, like not a bottom 6, like a bottom 6 forward or like a bottom pairing defenseman. Like nothing above that, I think, is worthy of even talking about a conversation. Unless somebody's basically doing you a favor, giving you somebody for way less value than what you're actually supposed to give, because this just seems like you are kind of saying you should almost be falling on your sword here. I understand that you had a very good start to the season, but it's just the message from Bill Guerin and crew tomorrow when they address the media better have a very clear-cut explanation of what the goal in plan for the season is. And, I don't want the standard, every day when we walk into the office here, the goal is to win a Stanley Cup. I get that. Everybody wants to. You know who else do? Probably the Anaheim Ducks. But guess what? That ain't happening for them this year.
Yeah.
I want to know what you think the actual realistic trajectory of this team is, because if there's no actual roadmap here and we're just trading for trading's sake to try to salvage something, that does really concern me, and then shakes the ground of what I thought was a very stable foundation for the future of this team. But if you're just now saying, you know what, we can take this support beam out because we got to prop something up here, like we're taking away from 2026 and now 2025. This is where we're really going to we're going to help out here. That worries me. So I need a very clear explanation, and they're not going to probably show all their cards because it's not the trade deadline yet. Like there's still time to go, and so that could be used against them. But we need something of a rational explanation tomorrow from Bill Guerin.
But they're going to say it's to win. Like that's what they're going to say. That's what they always say.
I'm not buying that.
But here's the problem. I think they believe that. And that's the problem. Like, this is a second round pick. If we were talking about like a trade for a sixth round pick, I mean, Nashville's screwed. Their season's done. This guy is a pending free agent. Okay. If it was another fifth or sixth, I might be fine with it. But bigger picture, I just think this is the start of trying to salvage it. And, Brock Nelson, who is the poster child for the discussions here, he is going to be a free agent. You can sign him July 1st. You can sign him for nothing. Don't give up anything. Don't give up any more draft picks.
Yep.
Here's what I would have, if I was Craig Leopold talking to Bill, here's what I would have told him now. I would say, you know what? First of all, we've got absolutely key guys out. Now we can examine our medical staff after the season. Like, who knows? I don't understand that stuff. So you can examine that when the time comes. But what I would have said was, Bill, when you traded your first round pick for Eriksson Ek, who, by the way, I like, and I think that might be a great trade. Like, he was the 6th overall pick.
Yep.
And the little that we've seen, I like him. So I would say, look, when you made that trade, you traded away the real ammunition to save this season if this took place. And I'm not asking you to have, like, predicted Kaprizov would be out starting on around December 27th, and that's it. So I'm not even faulting you. But what I'm saying is now is not the time to then also serve two masters, which is the Eriksson Ek trade really is for the future. But now we got to try to save this season. It might not be. And I will continue to pound the drum here, Age. I don't know about you. I don't care about a first round playoff win. Like, if you sell out, go balls to the wall and win a series, I don't care. Your goal is to win a Stanley Cup. And your window far more opens starting on July 1st of 2025, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like this whole discussion of, and Billy was asked about this. Bill was asked directly about this when the Eriksson Ek, in fact, I think the both of us were there. When the Eriksson Ek press conference was held, Bill talked about the fact, or was asked about the fact, hey, you gave up a first round pick. That's sort of your deadline ammo, dude. And he's like, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, yeah, if you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. But now it's gone, and now if you're like going to try to salvage this season, I guess I think it is a potentially very short-sighted solution that's going to do nothing but and this trade doesn't do this, but I'm just saying if you make more moves by Friday at the deadline, you're making moves that, in my opinion, could sabotage what looks like a bright future to try to save something that very well could be lost. Because with Eriksson Ek and with Kaprizov, there's ain't no guarantee that even if they do come back, they're going to be near the semblance of the player that they will be on training camp day one next season.
Here, I think it's fair to say that based on the fact that they got 50% of that retained, there's going to be another move. You don't we obviously it's not finalized yet. We don't really know exactly, but you don't make that and then, okay, we paid extra to have salary retained. Now we're just going to sit on our hands. Now we're just going to let it be. This sets up like something else is coming, and that really worries me. Somebody has to pull up Gustav Nyquist stats from last season. I'm on cap wages here. I don't know how well integrated their stuff is, but based on the 23-24 season, he played 81 games.
He was good last year.
23 goals, 52 assists for 75 points, with 17.45 of time on ice per game.
Yep.
+7 on the season. Obviously, things have not been going that well in Nashville this year, since it appeared that they were kind of going all in, getting Steven Stamkos, having some other big namers sign with them. 57 games this season, 9 goals, 12 assists, still about that 17.5 minutes per game, a -20. So could just be a weird meshing thing there. I mean, I know he's a good player.
Well, the Predators suck.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is he's 35. There's a very good chance that you probably don't bring him back. It's an expiring contract. It's the type of deal that you plug and play if you think that you can win a Stanley Cup, which I'm going to tell you right now. The bad news is this team ain't winning a Stanley Cup.
No.
And you cannot tell me, well, once we get Kirill back, unless you are going to go, and I am not advocating this, but let's just play this out, okay?
Okay.
Unless Kirill and Eriksson Ek are going to come back in the playoffs and, in your opinion, be damn good, okay? and you're going to hold them out till then. And starting on Friday, you're going to make 2 or 3 massive moves to make up for, or 2 moves to make up for, to allow you to go Golden Knights, right? The full Golden Knights. We talk about full Rams, F them picks. Well, the full Golden Knights is, hey, Mark Stone, you ain't playing until the playoffs start, and we're going to add a huge wing, a huge player. Yeah. But that's going to cost you way too much, and I don't want to give up that much collateral. So, but unless you're going to tell me that this is the start of hey, we're about to go out and make a couple of huge salary cap moves, and we are going to stash 97 and 14 until the playoffs start, at which point, because it's the National Hockey League, folks, the cap disappears. But I'm not advocating for that. I don't want that. I don't think it's a good idea. And again, I don't think that you can guarantee that would work.
Let's play a game of hypotheticals here. Hypothetically, they do that. Let's say they stash 97. They stash 14. Right now, with the LTIR for Kirill Kaprizov, the Wild currently hold a deadline cap space of $7.45 million. If they were to convert that, because it sounds like there's rumblings that Joel Eriksson Ek is probably on track to come back later than Kaprizov at times. Like, I've heard some rumors about that. Yep. If you also put him onto LTIR, $5.25 million will be added onto that. That opens up a massive, massive wallet for a team that really has been cash strapped for the past 4 or 5 years now.
Yep.
They have now a second rounder in 2025. If you really want to just move stuff, they have a first rounder still next year in 2026, a 26th third rounder, a 26th fourth rounder. Like besides their second.
And you can trade your prospects. Like teams will ask for your prospects.
Teams will ask for your prospects. Let's say Bill Guerin really wants to play seriously, and this is now all of a sudden is the year. Untouchable prospects. Jiricek, Zeev Buium, and let's see. I would say also probably Riley Heidt.
Yurov?
That's the thing. Do they feel Dania Yurov is a... Here's the other thing that would open it up for me.
Play this out for me, baby. Play this out. It's like
if
therapy.
If Eriksson Ek is out for that long,
yep.
I don't want to say she's right, but is this now a situation, given his pending contract litigation, Marco Rossi out the door for a bigger, stronger, in a sense, replacement center to make do while Joel Eriksson Ek is out? I hate that this is now where my mind is going. I hate that we're down this path. Jesse Pierce always haunts my Marco Rossi dreams.
She's right a lot, by the way, too.
It's incredible. She is rarely wrong.
Smart woman.
Judd, I'm nervous. I'll just say it. I'm nervous.
Flash with the comment, right, that just came in at 2:35 p.m. I think Flash is 1,000% right. I think Ogren's traded by Friday. I think Ogren could be a very good player.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he strikes me as a guy that they're going to move. I don't know why. It's sort of a gut feeling, but I think he is in a package. I just don't like any of this because I don't think it results in anything productive. And look, if they are parading around West 7th with a Stanley Cup come July 1, I take this all back and I'm sorry. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. And I don't see that happening. I think Ogren's gone. The Rossi thing, I don't think will happen, but it wouldn't shock me at this point in time. But what I think we're going to see is this. One, I don't think they're going to trade a productive player right now. Like, if you take Rossi off the team, he's been very productive. He's had a really nice year. Now, could I see him traded in July? Absolutely. I don't think you're going to take him off this team right now. But do I see them dipping into the prospect pool and perhaps LTIRing Eriksson Ek, as you just said, to go along with Kaprizov and then try to get cute? Yes, I could see that. I could easily, because that's the one way to manipulate the entire thing. Do I think it's the prudent, smart move? No. Does it shock me, or would it shock me? No.
Do you think Lou Lamoriello is open to this one here as Pato chimes in? Ogren and Johansson for Brock Nelson straight up. Your thoughts?
Funny Pato.
I'm so out on Brock Nelson. I'm so out.
But they're in. They love him.
But the thing is, like, if you're making a move like this, I want it for a guy that's going to be around and out of a senior living center for the next couple of years, which is why people, Mike here brings up Brock Besser, is a guy for the future. Urban here chimes in. Are we going for Besser in a sign and trade? Ogren in a 2026? You can't do a 2026 first.
I'm tired of giving up my draft picks. I'm tired of giving up my first round picks.
Especially when you can get him in 3 months.
That's what I was going to say. But that's the thing. If you look, on July 1st, we can relitigate the Brock Nelson conversation because I don't even know that I would sign him. But I don't want to give up squat. And Lou Lamoriello is going to get a nice return. Brock Besser, same thing. Ooh. This is
big.
This is possible, by the way.
Horse. Horse.
But you would be living on the cliff with that one. Mikko Rantanen. So what's transpired there was, and Colorado looks genius right now. And they made another significant trade with the Rangers today,
right? They got Ryan Lindgren.
Ryan Lindgren, yes.
Did they get VC too? Jimmy
yes,
VC?
Yeah, but VC's a bouncer arounder now.
Do you remember when he held the NHL hostage for like a summer? What
from Harvard.
What a saga that was.
He's played for the Rangers twice. He played for Toronto. He played for Vancouver. He went back. I think he's just bounced around.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Rantanen thing. Okay. So there was a significant trade that shocked the world. Before the Luka Doncic trade, this was actually the biggest surprise trade of the winter in all sports.
Yeah.
It was Rantanen on like a Friday night gets sent to Carolina, pending free agent himself, for Martin Necas, who wanted out of Carolina in the offseason, as I recall, but then stuck around and was having a great year.
Mm-hmm.
And so the expectation was, okay, Carolina gets Rantanen. He goes there, continues to play great, signs a long-term extension. Well, first of all, he's not played great. Second of all, Elliot Friedman reported that they sat down, Carolina, during the Four Nations break, sat down with Rantanen's representatives and offered him a contract that I think I saw a tweet today was reportedly in like current Nathan McKinnon territory.
I saw a rumor of $100 million.
Anyway, Rantanen, basically, his rep said his head is still swimming from this trade. He doesn't want to do that right now, basically implying, I think, that he wants to hit free agency. So Carolina's now like, oh, well, hold on a second here. A year ago, Gensel from Pittsburgh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Becomes a free agent. Now he's in Tampa. Got nothing to show for that trade. If you have nothing to show for the Rantanen trade, you are in big, big doo-doo. So there's rumors that he's going to be traded. And again, I would say that it's safe to say that he wants to hit the market. So if you were the Wild, and this is reckless speculation. If we had the sounder, I would sound it. Reckless speculation. Would you consider LTIRing Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov, who's there already till the playoffs, and taking on you'd probably have to, I don't know what the rest of his contract is because you wouldn't be paying the full freight. But if Carolina would keep a portion and taking on what you could of the Rantanen contract, he almost certainly would walk and it would cost you a ton. I am completely out, but it's Bill Guerin and that dude is a wild card. I am completely out on that idea.
I am too. Just because if you look at the situation they're in, they either trade and get something for him right now, or they're gambling where it's like, hey, we're going to really hope that we've got a team that this works out. You fall in love with the city, with the fan base, with the locker room, and you want to extend. If not, though, that's a quality top tier player that you're just, hey, thanks for the stay. Thanks for coming by. We sold a few jerseys while you were here. I appreciate it. That sounds so risky. And once again, for a team that has all this money coming their way for July 1st, and I get it. If you want to win now and you're Bill Guerin and you're Craig Leopold, if the finish line for a Stanley Cup was like right there, I could entertain it, but it's not. You're basically still at the starting line, given your injuries. Like you can see it, but it's miles and miles down the road in a different zip code. That's how far that finish line is. That you can't be making that type of trade right now, at least what in my opinion. Anthony says, let's go get Sid the Kid. It sounds like he's going to be staying pat in Pittsburgh, at least for the remainder of the season, right?
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet Bill has made that call. In fact, I bet Bill made that call months ago because that team's just not good. But I just don't know. Look, I originally said at the outset of the season when it just became crystal clear that Pittsburgh was going to be terrible, I said you should examine trying to get him. He can play with Flower. They're like best friends, right? Mm-hmm. They like to prank each other constantly. Marc-Andre Fleury and Sid the Kid. But that was with Kaprizov.
Yeah.
You know, like this is the thing is you've got to be prepared for the fact that this is all for no Kaprizov. He had surgery. We believe it was like a groin or a hernia. Ain't no guarantee. Those are not like you broke your foot, right? And I know the bone is going to be healed in 4 weeks. So there's a lot of questions here, but I think your prediction, your thoughts from the top of the show are accurate. I think you're right. I think they're going to try to make a few more moves. And I don't, unfortunately, while it's fun to talk about, I don't think I'm going to like any of the potential moves. And if you go trade for a rental based on the fact that that gets you the guy that you could have signed on July 1st, I'm going to hate the moves.
I agree. And Harley says need Granlund back. And as much as that's probably a tongue-in-cheek comment, that is frankly the type of trade that I could at least live with right now. Like, you're not going to break the bank for that. It's a depth guy. Like
Dallas just got him though.
Exactly. And I get it. So it's more of a joke, but like that quality of player, that is the type of guy. There should not be a blockbuster trade happening right now. These picks and everything, because let's say, and also if you do make a big trade, my thing is you make these trades, and we've seen this be a trend earlier and earlier in the season where they're made because chemistry is always an issue. You want to make sure these guys know how to play together. They can be able to get a repertoire with each other of where they're going to be, because you see it. We saw it in the Four Nations. Like for Canada, like obviously it's a lot of skilled players, but as soon as like Makar sees McKinnon step on the ice, he knows his tendencies and where he's going to be. Mm-hmm. If you make a big trade, Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov, come back playoff time. We are crossing fingers, hoping, praying that all of a sudden, whoever the people that were then acquired, hey, it's going to have to click. It better click, because you can have all this skill and talent, but the fact is a lesser skilled team that has been rock solid, arm step and step, like in the locker room all season long, that chemistry, that on the ice carries weight. Like you can outplay a better team if you have that chemistry. Mm-hmm. So that is also a massive like hesitation for me. This next 7 days here, six and some change, I guess, is going to be very nerve wracking, because I feel like it's going to be one of those. I'm going to get a text from you at like 3 a.m. They just traded 17 picks and acquiring Brock Nelson, and they're trying to extend him into 2042, and he's going to be 75 years old by the time his contract's up. Oh my
god. And I'm seeing comments here, mostly bad, and I agree. Ryan Hartman. Like, I'm not including him on guys out. Now, he is on the roster, and unfortunately, while suspended from what was a 10-game suspension that's been reduced to 8 that I believe is going to end on Thursday against Seattle, Ryan Hartman, I'm not including because I don't think he's going to make a bit of difference. Like, he'll come back for a couple of games, and he'll work hard, and it'll be great. But he's not, he is not going to be a guy. He is right now in his career, he is a bottom 6 guy. Who is okay at best. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not going to make a difference. So, like, if you are like, well, Hartman's coming back, okay, that's great. But, I mean, is he a center? Is he a wing? What is he? So, like, he to me does not factor in. If we're talking about who's going to come back, who can move the needle to get this team to a place where they can go on a playoff run, Hartman's not included in my world. It again is Eriksson Ek, it's Kaprizov. If Brodin is out now again, that is a mammoth loss. And the guy that we saw, the Brodin that we saw in Utah and against the Avs, is not him.
No.
Quite frankly, unfortunately, The Faber we saw the past 2 games was not pretty. So there's just a lot of things at play here, but I think Bill needs to take a deep breath and understand that this might not be fixable, and anything that you do to try to fix it might actually take away from what looks like a really nice foundation in the coming years.
I'm going to look in to see if we can maybe, like, if I can slip a 20 to somebody in the front office to, like, disconnect Billy's phone lines and then, like, or rig it so that when he picks up the phone, it's go straight to somebody else in the building. He's like, hey, yeah, this is Lou Lamoriello. Yeah, Bill, let's just have a chat, blah, blah, blah. Or something, straight jackets to restrain him, because I'm nervous. Let's go class in session here, though. Emily wants to know, and if you are just joining us, make sure to go back to the beginning of the episode to check out our full thoughts here. But Judd, if you had to label this with a school grade, A through F, A plus through F, initial reaction within the past hour, what would you give the trade of Minnesota Wild acquiring Gustav Nyquist?
I'd give it a C minus.
Okay. I was going to say C plus, but that's pending.
I was close to D plus. C minus. C minus, because I just don't think it's going to fix much. Like, he'll score some goals, but he's 35. It's a rental. It's all predicated on what he's going to do for you now, from now through the rest of the season when that ends. So, and I'll go back to it. It's not the end of the world, but a second round pick to me, that's a lot. A second round pick for an aging player when I don't think that you are a legitimate Stanley Cup team because of guys being hurt. I think it is below average, but it's not an F.
Yeah, and the problem here, Emily, is that C's do get degrees, but the problem is that C doesn't stand for cup. That does not stand for contender.
Good age.
Thank you. Like that's average. That's not gonna. That's, as we talked about right at the top. Like, that doesn't move the needle for me. It's not like, if he comes in here and he has a point per game the rest of the season, you know what? Then maybe it was probably worth it. But at the same time, is that extra point in a game where you have now Brodin out potentially? You have Brock Faber not looking like the Brock Faber he was before Four Nations, where you're allowing 4 goals a game because you're not really giving an effort in front of a Marc-Andre Fleury. He's getting 6 put up on the road for him, or out in Ball Arena in Denver. Sure, you start off much hotter, but then it just kind of dissipates as the game goes on because you're focusing so much and applying so many tactics to Nathan McKinnon that all of a sudden Ross Colton is tearing you apart on the score sheet.
Yeah.
Like, that is the issue here. So that an F here from Chase. We need youth and draft capital.
I'm not going with an F. Now by Friday, everything could be an F. So let's wait and see.
And my C plus is pending on other, because it's going to be affected by other stuff connected to this deal. This is now a ripple effect.
Correct. Exactly right. But I'm going right now C minus, because I don't see the big picture move here. And I don't think that a short-term move like this is going to boost you enough. Could it help get you in the playoffs? Absolutely. And if your only goal is to make the playoffs, that's a discussion that I don't want to be part of. Like, no. It's pathetic.
At that point, why are you even in the business?
Exactly. And, if you had told me at the start of the year when they got off to this great start, if you had pulled me aside and say, hey, Judd, but here's the problem. Kaprizov around Christmas is going to get hurt, and it's going to be real bad. Mm-hmm. And Eriksson Ek is going to get hurt, and it's going to be pretty bad. I would have said, oh, you're probably screwed.
Yeah.
Like,
especially after the first month that we saw of like a Hart Trophy campaign. You can't just lose a Hart Trophy caliber player. And there's really no trade because you can't replace that. You can't build the pieces.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just such a tough road. Like, and I get it. You have injuries, it seems like every single night. You get somebody back, hey, somebody else is now hurt because they took a puck off the inside of the knee. And now, they tried to play through, but all of a sudden that actually aggravated something else and blah, blah, blah. I get it. You're in a tough position. And I know that they're going to tell you, they're going to tell the cameras in the media tomorrow, hey, we're trying to win. And I get that. But winning I'll tell you what, that statement doesn't pertain to just this season.
Right.
Especially in a year where we've talked about a 5-year plan that they have to win. So why does now that winning date suddenly get pushed up because of and that's where I just don't buy it. That's where I just don't buy those comments.
And you're right. At the beginning, when Leopold did his in-suite media gathering, he talked about a 5-year plan. So you're exactly right. Like why abandon that plan now because you got off to a good start, which by the way was great. But if anybody had told you Kaprizov is going to be lost for an extended period, and we don't know when he comes back, if he's even going to be 75 to 65% of who he was, you would say, okay, just bail then. Like I'm not even mad at the team. I'm not upset with the players. No, I just think I think two things. One is you have two of your most important, Kaprizov is their best player. Some will argue that Eriksson Ek is their heartbeat, which I can see. They're both out. And frankly, and this has happened to a few guys, I'm looking at you, Connor McDavid. The Four Nations has taken a toll on guys.
Yeah.
Like the Oilers can't win right now. They've been a mess. And it's because their best player went balls to the wall in a February tournament. And look, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you sign off on, if you think that is great, that's awesome. But you are going to pay a price. I'm the parent here saying, I told you so. I'm the parent here saying, I told you this was going to happen. I hoped it wouldn't. And the tournament was great. But Brock Faber has not been the same player since he came back. Brodin was already predisposed to injury, and now he's hurt again. Eriksson Ek didn't play in your last game before the tournament, and now he's out again. I just want to go through here. So just to put some context to this discussion with this team. There are 12 teams that hold the top 3 places in their respective divisions. The Wild still because they've got a game in hand on the Avs, still hold the third place in the Central. They are tied with Colorado with 72 points apiece, okay? But let me just go through the 12 teams. And I'm not going to go through the actual teams. I'm just going to go through one stat. Goal differential. Okay. In the Atlantic, plus 21, plus 30, plus 55. Tampa Bay, red hot of late. In the Metropolitan, plus 58, plus 26, plus 32. In the Pacific, plus 31, plus 19, plus 15 from the Kings, plus 15. That's not that good. Kings, what's wrong with you? Let's go to the Central. Winnipeg, plus 72. Wow. Dallas, which would be your first-round playoff opponent right now, and is playing great. And by the way, goaltending advantage, big check mark. Dallas, plus 48. The Minnesota Wild, minus 4. They are the only among playoff teams. So let's go into the wild card teams. The Red Wings, which hold playoff seed number 1, they're tied with the Blue Jackets at 66 points. By the way, those two teams will play an outdoor game. I just can't wait for it. I just love these outdoor games. Today, the Red Wings are a minus 13. The Blue Jackets are a plus 7. In the Western Conference, the wild cards are Colorado plus 16, Vancouver minus 16. So there are 3 teams and only one in the top 3 of its division that has a minus goal differential. And much like in football points, in baseball runs, it's one of the most important stats. It's one of the most telling stats. And you're a minus, and you're going to play Dallas in the first round. Good luck to you. I don't care what trades you make. Good luck to you.
And while you were doing that, I've been seeing a kind of discussion, some statements here in the comments, basically. Here, Rusty even says this. Is this a hot seat move for Bill Guerin? I don't think so. I would say personally, I'm still very high on Bill Guerin and his, what he's done with the team. He set them up in a position to where for the next couple of seasons, you would expect them to be a team that not only is good and in the playoffs, but also probably is a contender. The problem is it's very, I think, easy and simple to unravel all of that progress. You don't just strike gold and all of a sudden you're rich and you got this giant mine of wins and goals and everything. You build this and you take a path, and there's struggles, and this season and last season with injuries has been a struggle. But now to just be like, you know what? we're deep in the cave. We're searching for these diamonds and this gold and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? This wall is really tough. Like, we just can't get through it. So what are we going to do? Let's just throw a bunch of TNT and blow the whole thing up. And hopefully we can now punch through. The problem with that is there's a really good chance you're going to cave in all of those rocks on top of you. And all of a sudden you're suffocating and you're dead. Everything that you just built up, gone. Poof. You're just a thought. The teams that have yes, you do have a couple teams there every once in a while in a blue moon that like just strike gold, and it's chemistry. It's the power of friendship that wills them. Most of the times though, it's great drafting. It's great trading. It's major off-season acquisitions that put these teams in a position to now make a deep run. And it's built on culture. And I feel like Bill Guerin and his team have done that with the Wild since he's taken over. There have been some questionable moves and blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, I think most people would agree it's outweighed the negatives. What you can do potentially in a nightmare situation over the next couple of days before 2 p.m. on Friday, March 7th, that can unravel and blow up the entire cave.
And here's what I think the problem is too. So I think that this is a case where you need to have either the owner or GM say, no, just not time yet. And
it's that simple.
Craig Leopold can sit there in September and say, you know what, 5-year plan. And we're all like, huh? And he's like, yeah, it's a plan. And yes, to answer the question, you're right. Bill Guerin, 0 hot seat. That's not for me. He's not. But Craig can talk about that in September. But there's 2 factors at work here in Craig's life. 1, he wants to win. He's at every game. He wants to win now. And 2, the thought of the X being dark for a second consecutive spring, no playoff games, no playoff revenue, does not sit well, okay? Mm-hmm. So now enters Bill. Okay, Bill, you got to tell him. We've got Kaprizov out. We've got Eriksson Ek out. Probably not going to work. And this does not mean you're going to miss the playoffs, okay? Just to be clear, I'm not saying miss the playoffs. I'm just saying don't make any ridiculous moves to try to make the playoffs when I don't think that you can contend for a cup yet. And by the way, I think you have the infrastructure to contend for a cup not that far from now, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying Bill comes in and says, yeah, let's miss the playoffs. But I am saying, hey, Craig, Kirill's hurt, and it's not good. Eriksson Ek hurt. It's not good. We sent a bunch of guys to play in a tournament that the league loved, but by the way, it's backfiring, just like Judd said it would. And the reality is they don't have that guy. So you have 2 people that are dedicated to trying to win at all costs now, which is what concerns you, which I agree with, which is if Judd Brackett, who is their scouting director, is the traffic cop, that doesn't mean a damn thing. He can't stop them. Like he can say, I would advise against this, and they're going to say, that's not your job. Who cares? Yeah. So my question is, what's the sanity in the room that says, no one's saying that you shouldn't make the playoffs, and in a small vacuum, the Gustav Nyquist trade is not going to make you, it's not going to break you.
Yep.
But if we're going down a path of, okay, let's just go for it, screw it, let's just go for it. It's the slippery slope that you're talking about, which I don't know if would completely unravel you, but it certainly could set you back. And potentially on what you do, it could make your July 1st a lot less active than you anticipated. So there's got to be somebody where there's just a rational thought process that reigns and says, okay, we got to examine this. Hopefully that's there this week at some point in time. This trade doesn't lead me to believe that's going to be there. And I think when it comes time to make decisions based on what can we do now, I think Craig and Bill are very much on the same page, and I don't know that page is constructive.
And the other thing too, and they've essentially were like touting it's going to be Christmas in July for Wild fans and all this stuff. Taking from that future, especially when you still don't have a signature, because it's one, it can't happen, but you don't have a signature from Kirill Kaprizov saying he's going to remain in a Minnesota Wild sweater on the completion of his deal. That takes away from the selling point there as well. That's just another component to think about where you're currently without him. He's recovering from a surgery. If you're going to try to funnel stuff here, and granted, like I'm talking hypotheticals because this is just one single move that I maybe am overreacting on because of 50% salary retained. Keep in mind, that is where this is whole stemming from for me. But taking that stuff away and all it hurts your case and your argument of, hey, Kirill, we're going to give you all this money. We're going to give you the term you want and all this stuff. You're going to cash in. Don't you worry about that. The cap's going up. But if he is a guy that values winning in a project over the money at the end of the day, and then granted, it probably outweighs a certain extent, like if it's close, it's tough to say, okay, well, now that second rounder that we're potentially moving, or that first rounder that we're parting ways with for a 35-year-old, 36-year-old, it's where is that now going to come from to furnace some sort of move in a year where you're healthy, Eriksson Ek is healthy, we have these younger guys coming up, we have Zeev Buium now with the team, we have all these other things happening, and we are a contender, but now we're strapped. We can't really make the move that we want to. That's where I am just so hesitant. I need this week to be over. Like this move has happened within the past hour and a half, and I already need this coming week to be over because I'm just so nervous as to what's to come. It's just a giant black hole we're looking into.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think that the Bill Guerin access that we're going to get shortly before the face-off against Boston tomorrow is going to shed much light, but it's going to be very interesting, and it could be extremely counterproductive because I don't see this team getting out of the first round unless everyone comes back perfect, like they're new. Mm-hmm. And, it's just a lot of things here. All right, we have certainly broken down the reacquisition of Gustav Nyquist for a second-round pick instead of fifth-round pick. Plenty. Appreciate all of you who tuned in live, and appreciate all of you who are listening to Judd's Hockey Show wherever and whenever you do. We'll be back. By the way, we are going to do a reaction tomorrow. We're going to do a show off of the Bruins game and also what Bill Guerin had to say in his press conference. So a couple of days of weekend at JHS's. We'll talk to you then.